So in case you're living under a rock or you're just waking up, Juan Soto is a New York Met. So in this video, I'm going to go over the fallout of Soto signing with the Mets. What are the next moves to the Mets? How do the Yankees recover from this? What's next for the Red Sox? What will happen with the Blue Jays? Let's get into it. Of course, we're going to start things off with the Mets and take a look at the top of the lineup. You got Francisco Lindor and Juan Soto, both guys coming off MVP caliber years. What a fantastic 1-2 punch to start things off. But I do think the Mets need to add another bat. You got to remember with Juan Soto coming off a career year, but he had amazing protection behind him with Aaron Judge. Now, I'm not saying the Mets need to go out there and add someone like Aaron Judge, but I think a solid, formidable bat that you can count on in the middle of the order would go a long way. Now, I love Mark Vientos coming off a breakout year, put up some good numbers, but he lacks a track record. I think it would go a long way for the Mets to add someone with a track record, and all eyes are going to turn to Pete Alonso here. Pete Alonso has been a fan favorite in Queens for a while now. He's one of the best power hitters in the game for a long time now, coming off a season in which he had 34 home runs. But will David Stearns give him the contract that he's going to be looking for? I would imagine he's going to be looking for at least 5 years, maybe even get 6. We'll just have to wait and see on that. But after signing Juan Soto to a record deal, will David Stearns see the value in giving a big contract to a first baseman that's going into his 30s? I'm not so sure about that. Now, I could maybe see Christian Walker seeing a fallback option. This guy's about to turn 34 years old, so I would imagine he's going to get a shorter deal. He's been one of the better power hitters in the game for a little bit now. I think he would be a solid add. If not free agency, maybe you could turn to the trade market. Josh Naylor on the Guardians is probably going to be available this offseason. He's coming up on free agency, and you got to remember with the Guardians, they're a small market team, so they're always looking to get ahead and try to get value back while they still can, and they have Kyle Manzardo in the fold. Josh Naylor, I think, would be a good add. 31 home runs this past year with a 456 on the slugging, and he would be a free agent after next season. And I'm just saying, I'm going to throw something out there. Vlad Jr. is a free agent next offseason. I'm just saying, maybe they could do that. When it comes to third base, Brett Baty is projected to be the everyday third baseman, but he hasn't been able to figure it out at the major league level. Will they want to give him another chance moving forward? He has been on the trade block so far this offseason, so I could see him end up getting moved. If they were to move him, maybe you could turn to Alex Bregman. Kind of getting back to what I said with Pete Alonso. If they don't want to give a big contract to Pete Alonso, would they want to give one to Alex Bregman? Or could they perhaps maybe look at the trade market, maybe Nolan Arenado? I don't think his bat would fit very well at Citi Field. The numbers have been regressing over the last couple of years, and that's a pitcher-friendly park. I don't think Arenado would be a good fit there. But either way, I do think the Mets need to add another bat here. Now, when it comes to the rotation, they have added a couple of guys, Frankie Montas and Clay Holmes, but both guys are question marks at this point. When it comes to Frankie Montas, he missed all of 2023. He came back this past season, put up some not-so-great numbers, but that's expected, working his way back after missing so much time prior. So maybe the Mets can adjust a couple of things and he can end up taking a step forward in 2025. And Clay Holmes, of course, this guy's been a reliever for his entire career, and he's going to be a starter going into 2025. So we never know how that's going to work out. It has worked out for guys like Seth Lugo, Garrett Crochet this past year. But with Clay Holmes, I do think it could work out in the end. He gets a lot of ground balls. He got a good defense behind him, has pretty good advanced metrics over the last couple of years. So I could see Clay Holmes being a decent back end of the rotation starter. We'll just have to wait and see. But in the end, it is a question mark. I think it would go a long way for the Mets to add someone that can get the job done. And with the Mets looking to compete for a championship, I think the perfect guy would be Nathan Eovaldi. Nathan Eovaldi, this guy has proven time and time again how big he can come up in the postseason, coming off a couple of solid years here with the Rangers, helping them win a World Series back in 2023. Nathan Eovaldi, I think, would be a very good number 2 in the rotation. I think Senga Eovaldi, that would be a good 1-2 punch, and then you got some options behind him. But in the end, it's amazing that the Mets added Juan Soto here. I mean, what an addition this is. But I don't think they're done. I think they need to make a couple more moves, get one more bat, get one more guy for the rotation, maybe even one more arm or 2 for the bullpen. But, again, even though Soto, yes, record deal, I think the Mets have a few more things to do. Moving on to the team that lost Juan Soto, the Yankees. 16 years and $760 million wasn't enough in the end. My goodness, that sounds ridiculous coming out of my mouth. But the Yankees are going to have to figure this out, and they're going to have to figure it out quick. Now, they're not going to be able to replace Juan Soto with one guy, so I think they're going to have to do it with multiple players. Now, when it comes to the outfield, you do got someone in Jason Dominguez. He's been a top prospect now for about, 84 years, but I do think this is his chance to show that he can be an everyday player, and I think with the upside he has, I think he could be a solid one moving forward. Now, when it comes to center field, you got a couple of options. They could go with Aaron Judge, or they could go with Jazz Chisholm, but personally, I'm going with Jazz at second base. That way you can still get some good production at second without having to bring back Gleyber Torres, and I would go with Aaron Judge out in center field. Now, this would open up the possibility of adding a corner outfielder like Anthony Santander. No, he's not going to be Juan Soto by any means. He doesn't got that plate discipline, but he's got serious power, 44 home runs this past year. He's a switch hitter. I think he would be a great fit for the Yankees. Someone like Cody Bellinger, I think, could make a lot of sense. Now, his numbers did take a bit of a hit this past season, but his lefty bat would fit very well at Yankee Stadium. There's also someone like Teoscar Hernandez they've been connected to, coming off a great year, took a one-year prove-it deal with the Dodgers, ended up having a great season, won the home run derby, helped them win a World Series. He would definitely be a good fit as well. Now, when it comes to third base, you could turn to someone like Alex Bregman. They have a bit of a hole at third base right now. You could go with a younger guy like Oswald Peraza, Oswaldo Cabrera, but if they wanted to go with a steady bat, someone like Alex Bregman, I think would make a lot of sense. Now, if it were me, I wouldn't stop with just the offense to make up for the loss of Soto. I would also add to the rotation. Now, you got Garrett Cole, you got Carlos Rodon, Luis Gil, winning Rookie of the Year this year, Clark Schmidt taking a step forward, but someone like Marcus Stroman was a bit underwhelming this year. Maybe you could move him in a separate deal and upgrade the rotation. Someone like Corbin Burns is going to cost a lot of money, but could you imagine a 1-2 punch of Garrett Cole and Corbin Burns, Carlos Rodon being the number 3? My goodness, what a rotation that would be. Maybe someone like Max Fried. Michael Kay said that the Yankees and Fried had a good meeting recently. The Yankees got a good infield. Max Fried gets a lot of ground balls. I could see that being a pretty good fit. Someone like Nathan Eovaldi. He was on the other side of the rivalry not too long ago with the Red Sox. Maybe he could go back to the Yankees. Remember, he was with them for a while. The Yankees, I mean, hey, this is a team that wants to get to a World Series and win the whole thing. Nathan Eovaldi, a proven postseason performer. I could see that being a pretty decent fit. And I wouldn't stop with just the rotation. I would look at the bullpen as well. Yeah, Luke Weaver had a tremendous run this year after going into the closer role over Clay Holmes, but I feel like they could use a bit of insurance there, especially now that Clay Holmes went to the other team in New York, the Mets. He's going to be a starter there, but maybe you could add something, a high leverage guy for the back end of the bullpen. And I feel like they could use a lefty here. I'm not sure what's going to happen with Nestor Cortez. Is he going to stay in the bullpen? I'm not quite sure, but I would go after a high leverage lefty. Someone like Tanner Scott, I think, would make all the sense in the world. A ton of swing and miss. This guy has been nasty over the last couple of years, and I think he would be good insurance in case anything were to happen to Luke Weaver. So for the Yankees overall, I think they need to add a couple of bats here. I think a corner outfielder, go after a third baseman like Alex Bregman. I think that could be very good for that lineup. And hopefully Jason Dominguez can finally take that step from being just a prospect to a prominent player in the major leagues and upgrade the rotation. You're going to have to make up for the loss of Juan Soto with a few guys, in my opinion. Let's talk about my Red Sox. And sure, they put forth a very respectable offer of 15 years and $700 million, but in the end, it never really felt like they were a realistic landing spot for him. However, the good thing is that he wasn't even on most people's plan A's coming into the offseason, so now they can get back to a more realistic plan A, and I think Teoscar Hernandez is an absolute perfect fit. The Red Sox need a right-handed bat. He's coming off a great year, like I said earlier, with the Dodgers. Took a one-year prove-it deal, had a great season, won the home run derby, helped them win a World Series. He's always hit well at Fenway Park. He's always talked highly of playing at Fenway Park, has great numbers there, and they were in deep negotiations with him last offseason, so they have that familiarity. Now, I think Teoscar would be an absolute perfect fit. If he ends up going elsewhere, maybe he could turn to Anthony Santander. Now, for me personally, if there was a left-handed bat to add, it was Juan Soto, but I could maybe see Santander being an option here. When it comes to Santander, he's hit well at Fenway Park in his career at 800 OPS, but he's also a switch hitter. I could see Alex Cora liking that flexibility in the lineup. Defensively, nothing great. Just put him out in left field in front of the monster. But in the end, I think Teoscar is an absolute perfect fit if I were to go with an outfielder. Now, what you could could also do is upgrade third base. Rafael Devers is not good defensively. Another guy out there could be Alex Bregman. He's been very good defensively at third base, but he's also a right-handed bat. I think would work very well at Fenway Park. The batted ball metrics are kind of middle of the road for him, but I think a hitter-friendly park with the monster for Bregman, who is more of a pull guy, I think he would be a good fit there overall. But even if you didn't put him at third base, the Red Sox second base right now is a bit of a question mark. Remember, he brought in Vaughn Grissom in the Chris Sale trade, and that hasn't really worked out. Vaughn Grissom was pretty much non-existent this past year. So Alex Bregman, there have been talks about him being open to moving to second base, and also in a pinch, he could play shortstop if something were to happen with Trevor Story. Bregman could slide into there. I think Bregman would be a pretty nice fit. He could play third base. Rafi, on the days that Rafi maybe has some DH duties, you could put Bregman at third. So I think with his versatility and also the postseason experience that he brings, that veteran leadership, I think he would be a great fit for the Red Sox. If Bregman ends up going elsewhere or back to Houston, I could see them turning to Arenado. He would definitely be an upgrade defensively, and Rafi could move to the DH spot. Arenado's bat has been regressing over the last couple of years, but if you put him in a hitter-friendly park like Fenway Park with the monster, I think that could end up helping him out. And don't forget, they got to figure out a way to move Masataka Yoshida. He's really a light-hitting DH at this point, kind of a logjam in the Red Sox lineup. I think they need to move on from him, eat some of the contract if you have to, and if they were to add an outfielder like Teoscar or Santander, I think they got to find a way to move Willie Abreu too. Now, another major area of concern for the Red Sox is the rotation. Now, they have a pretty good floor as of right now. You got guys like Tanner Houck, Brian Bayo, Carter Crawford, Lucas Giolito is going to be making his way back soon, but I feel like you need a bona fide stud at the top of the rotation. Tanner Houck took a big step forward this year, but in my opinion, he's more of a 2, maybe even a 3 in some good rotations out there. I think there's definitely an argument for bringing in someone like Corbin Burnes. I've mentioned him already a couple of times, but Corbin Burnes would definitely be a bona fide ace for the Red Sox at the top of the rotation. The only problem I see there is John Henry in the past hasn't really been willing to sign off on long-term deals for starting pitchers. He did it with David Price, but other than that, not really all that much. He did sign off on the extension for Chris Sale for 5 years. That didn't really work out in the end. So maybe Corbin Burnes might be a bit too expensive. I could see Max Fried being a fallback option. He's definitely going to be cheaper than Corbin Burnes. The Red Sox could also use a lefty in the rotation. And another thing with Max Fried, I wonder if the Red Sox maybe find him intriguing because his four-seamer this past year wasn't a very good pitch, but the Red Sox, what they did this past year is they got away from four-seamers and they had pitchers focus on their strengths. With Max Fried, his sinker and the cutter showed a lot more, with the cutter more so in terms of stuff and the sinker in terms of results. I could see the Red Sox looking at Max Fried and saying, hey, let's try and use those pitches a little bit more over the four-seamer, and maybe they could get a bit more out of him, and he would be cheaper than Corbin Burnes. Now, if you wanted to go after a lefty, my preferred option would be Garrett Crochet. This guy was an absolute maniac this year. His first year in the rotation, this guy put up some fantastic numbers for the White Sox this year, a breakout year. He took a bit of a step back in the second half, but, being in the rotation in his first year in the rotation, I can imagine there's probably going to be some fatigue coming down the stretch, especially after coming off Tommy John surgery the year prior. So Garrett Crochet, though, this guy's got nasty stuff. He would be an amazing addition for the rotation. And when it comes to the White Sox point of view, I think they are great trade partners because the White Sox really want to get position players back for Garrett Crochet. And the Red Sox, when you take a look at the top 4 prospects in their system, you got Roman Anthony, Christian Campbell, Marcelo Meyer, and Kyle Teal. Now, I don't see the Red Sox parting with Roman Anthony or Christian Campbell. They're very highly projectable players. Kyle Teal, I don't see them moving on from him either because good catching prospects are very scarce. So I could see the Red Sox hanging on to those 3, but I could see maybe they move Marcelo Meyer. They have a lot of middle infield depth in the organization already. I think Marcelo Meyer would be a great centerpiece to land someone like Garrett Crochet. We'll just have to wait and see here. But in the end, the Red Sox, they do need to improve the top of the rotation. They need something there. I wouldn't be surprised as well if maybe they added someone for the back end of the bullpen, someone cheaper, maybe someone like David Robertson, who'll probably take like a one-year deal, a veteran guy that could close in a pinch if needed, if Liam Hendricks stumbles. So in the end, the Red Sox, they have a lot to do. Last but not least, let's talk about the Blue Jays. Now, it's unknown what their final bid was for Soto, but they just never really seemed like a team that realistically had a chance at him. And I think a big reason for that, despite having a lot of money to play with, was the fact that their long-term outlook is a bit fuzzy at the moment, with most notably not having Vlad Jr. signed up long-term. That absolutely needs to be the first thing that the Blue Jays do this offseason before they worry about any free agents, any trades, because once you have that box checked off, that would help entice players to come to Toronto. At this point, though, does Vlad even want to stick around? He has stated he would love to stay, but since nothing's been worked out, he's coming off a great season and he's only just about to turn 26 years old. He might already be looking towards cashing in next year when he hits free agency. And along with that, the farm system isn't looking all that great. Guys like Bo Bichette is coming up on free agency. Kevin Gausman's going to be a free agent in a couple of years. So things are kind of up in the air for the Blue Jays right now. Now, it could end up being a little tough for the Blue Jays to land someone on a long-term deal, but perhaps they could sway Santander, who I've mentioned a couple of times already. If you were able to bring him in, that is a lot of power in the middle of the order with Vlad and Santander. What a 1-2 punch that would be. Now, if you can't sway him, maybe you could turn to someone like Jerickson Profar, coming off a career year with the Padres. He's about to turn 32 years old, coming off a career year, so who knows how long of a deal he's going to be able to get. I could see something in the 3 to 4 year range. If not Profar, maybe you could look at someone like Jesse Winker. He was pretty solid this year. He played for the Mets down the stretch. He did very well for them. I could see maybe Jesse Winker getting a 2-year deal. I could see the Blue Jays maybe doing something like that. They could use someone in the outfield, or maybe you could do like a 1-year deal on Alex Verdugo. Had a pretty down year with the bat. I'm sure he's going to be pretty motivated going into 2025. Get a 1-year deal, try to reestablish that value a little bit. Or maybe look towards the infield. They got Ernie Clement projected at third base as of right now, but he's a guy that has versatility. He could move around. Maybe you could take a chance on someone like Yohan Moncada, former top prospect. He's kind of lost his way over the last few years. He's had a lot of injuries, but Moncada, kind of like I said with Verdugo, looking for a chance to reestablish his value. And remember the Blue Jays, they did that with Marcus Semien just a couple of years ago, and look at the contract he ended up getting with the Rangers. So maybe the Blue Jays can pull off that same kind of magic. Now, if I'm looking at the rotation, I think the rotation is pretty solid as is, but I think you could still maybe fit an upgrade in here. They have been connected with Corbin Burns. I mean, that would be an amazing 1-2 punch of Kevin Gausman, Corbin Burns. But will Burns want to go to Toronto? That's the only thing I have. Or maybe they could go for a cheaper option, someone like Nick Pivetta. He's got some good stuff. He's going to get himself a pretty good deal, I think. I think he's a pretty underrated free agent. A lot of people thought he was going to accept a qualifying offer for the Red Sox, but I expected him to turn it down, and that's what he ended up doing. He's got good stuff. Maybe the Blue Jays can bring him in, tap into some of that potential, and he can end up being very productive for them. Or maybe a cheaper option, someone like Andrew Heaney, a guy that's always had pretty good advanced metrics compared to the surface numbers. But the Blue Jays, it's going to be interesting to see how they approach this offseason. But the most important thing, I think, in the end, they need to figure out a way to keep Vlad Jr. in for the long haul. But everyone, that's all I got for right now. Those are my thoughts on the teams that were involved in the Juan Soto sweepstakes. Let me know what you think about the Mets. What do they need to do? How do you think the Yankees are going to be able to bounce back? What do you think the Red Sox need to do moving forward? Do you think the Blue Jays have a chance at any of the top free agents this offseason? Let me know down below in the comments. But everyone, that's all I got for right now. If you can on the way out, hit that like button for me, subscribe if you're new, and I'll talk to you next time.